Thanks for choosing the Urban Scope podcast. Like I said before, I've been a little under the weather, so I haven't been able to cover some of the topics that we're going to talk about today. But I want to talk about the Chiefs and why the Chiefs, I believe, may never be the same. Um, Now, just a little background. Most teams that go to the Super Bowl, is very difficult for them to get back. They have that Super Bowl hangover, so to speak. A lot of pieces move off the board. They get a lot of new additions. They get a lot of subtractions. Then they have to work on that chemistry all over again because we know you have to start all over from the start. You don't get to start where you left off last season into the new season. And everyone's always aiming for you when you're at the top and you've been to the Super Bowl so many times as Chief has been. But I want to break down a couple of things that I think that might be a hindrance for the Chiefs coming up this season. Like I said, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I think this is just an interesting topic to cover because everyone always thinks because you went to the Super Bowl last year, you can do it again. A lot of teams that went to the Super Bowl never reached it again, and some haven't reached for, if you're the Cowboys or the Browns, over 30, 40 years. So it's a very difficult process. There's a lot of motivation and a lot of coaching and a lot of planning that has to go back into it to reach that precipice or that mountaintop again. Um, so with the Chiefs, you know, first you have to think about their coach. Andy Reid, he's been coaching for over 40 years. How much longer will he go? He's pushing into his 70s. Um, how much longer can he coach this team? And if he decides not to coach the team going forward, what new coach will they get, and how will that affect Mahomes? Now, a lot of people think Mahomes has made Andy Reid this Hall of Fame coach. To some extent, he has, but it works hand in hand. These plays and positions that he is putting Patrick Mahomes in, has also benefited him. It benefited him as well. So, if you don't have the right coach, that could put him in bad spots, and that could put him and the team in a bad spot. And, that will put them in a difficult spot trying to repeat or even trying to get back to the Super Bowl. And then an obvious problem that the Chiefs had in the Super Bowl that they also had in that Tampa Bay Super Bowl was offensive line troubles. Now, in that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, the line was just backed up and they just had injuries everywhere. But this time they had everybody pretty much for the most part, and they still got dominated by the defensive line of the Eagles, who only rushed, I believe, twice during the whole game. So they only sent 4 people to the Chiefs 5, and they couldn't stop the pressure from getting back to Mahomes. Uh, will they be able to get more offensive line help next year? And when they do, they're going to have to fit in and work on the chemistry and all that stuff. So it's just not easy as in a plug and play. You have to find the right lineman for the scheme. Can they do that? From what we know in the past, after that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, they fixed it and went to 2 straight Super Bowls. So they have that pedigree of fixing that as they have before. But let's see if they can duplicate that again. Then you have to pay. Well, they don't have too many other people to pay from just their landscape. They have Mahomes paid and they have Chris Jones paid. So they got their key pieces paid. They just have to finagle a couple other people. But for the most part, they will have to address that offensive line issue because Tooney is, originally a guard. He was playing a tackle. So can they get Tooney back at his original position and fix that line problem? Because that's going to be a key point, because before you do anything else, you have to fix that, because if Mahomes doesn't have enough time to pass, no matter how great he is, as you've seen in those 2 Super Bowls, he needs time to get people open and make those passes, because with the pressure, any quarterback will look regular. So, and then the Chiefs don't have really any elite receivers. Will they bring in some in addition to the linemen that they have to bring in? And who's out there for them to get other than people to draft and, try to get some trades, maybe T. Higgins out of the Bengals. But they don't really have any elite receivers. They have receivers with speed, but like Xavier Worthy. But can they get, Rashee Rice is supposed to come back, but people don't realize Rashee Rice still has that pending case in Texas. And once he gets that case figured out, the league is going to suspend him for a certain amount of games. So how long will he be out? And he has an injury on top of that. So we might not see him most of next season between, the suspension from the league and the injury that he already has. So can they bring in key pieces for that? And then we also know that Kelsey looked pretty bad throughout the year, even though having those almost 100 catches and 900 yards. But he looked pretty sluggish throughout the year. He seemed disinterested at times. He seemed out of place. He's getting up there and pushing, almost into his 40s. How long will he be able to play, and can they replace him at that position? Will they have to do it by committee? It's so many questions as far as that offensive side goes. The defense is looking pretty good, but Chris Jones is 31 years old now. How much wear and tear does he have on that body? How much longer will he be able to go? But that defensive line looked pretty decent in the Super Bowl. But can they keep this up? And then what pieces will leave? What pieces will come in? But this offseason and the draft will be key for them getting these new pieces because they're going to have to start from scratch, especially on that offensive line. You can always get better in that defensive defensive back wise. Will they be able to do that? It's just so many questions, for every team. But for the Chiefs trying to create this, well, they already have a dynasty with the 3 Super Bowls over the past 8 years or so. But will they be able to keep up this reign? Because we know it's very difficult to do. The Patriots were able to do it. The Dallas Cowboys were able to do it to an extent back in the 90s. The Bills were able to do it, but it's very difficult to do because, like I said, once you get these players that get these accolades, they're going to demand more money, and you're not going to be able to pay everybody. But, luckily the Chiefs doesn't have that issue of these many people wanting money. Xavier Worthy's probably going to want some money eventually. But for the most part, you just have Mahomes and Chris Jones making these big paydays, opposed to all these other players. You have a couple offensive line and making good money, but they don't really have that money issue. But this loss for the Chiefs looked very bad as they lost similar. I think this loss to me was worse than the one in Tampa Bay, just for the simple fact of you didn't score until the third quarter during garbage time. And it looked very bad. You had all these people hoping for a three-peat. They could barely get 3 points in the third quarter. And they just looked defeated, and the sideline looked disinterested. And a lot of people were saying that it seems like they had something going on behind the scenes. And as always, we'll find out eventually if that's true or not, especially if next season doesn't go as planned. These things will start leaking out and the rumors will get out there. But, in the meantime, I think they just have to work on the offseason. But congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for a dominant performance, one of the greatest Super Bowl performances we have all, defensively that we've ever seen before. So kudos to them. It wasn't just about the Chiefs looking bad. The Eagles made them look bad as well. So the offseason, we'll see what moves they make and what moves they make during the draft specifically. But until next time, I'll see you next time.